So it's finally time. You've decided after months or maybe years of thinking about it that you are going to earn your CMP. So suddenly you're getting all kinds of input and advice from people who have gone through it, and very conflicting and confusing at times, all well meant for sure. So you're trying to figure out what's the right thing for you. People sometimes ask me, what is the best way to prepare for the CMP? And I'm going to tell you the best way is the way that's best for you. So how do you figure that out? I'm going to give you some things to think about, starting with what are the best learning environments you've ever been in. Maybe it was a particular class in school. Maybe it was another preparatory program for another certification or designation. Maybe it was something you went to at a conference. But think about what made it so good. And it never hurts to think about the ones that go, nope, never want to do that again. So do you want interaction with the teacher, presenter, facilitator? Do you want to be able to have discussion with the other people who are in the group? Do you want someone who teaches and explains the concepts, or do you want someone who facilitates and goes through the material by bringing it up through the people in the class? Is it important to you that you understand how the material you're reading applies to what you're doing? In this case, the meetings and event world. Do you want them to connect the dots for you? Also, then you may be someone who prefers to study by yourself. Study, read, take notes, analyze in your own head, etc. None of those are wrong. It's knowing what's best for you and where you've had the most success in the past. To build on the last one, though, I will share this. From talking to people who have worked through trying to do it by themselves, they have found it to be quite challenging. Unlike the days when the exam was very memorization based, where it was much easier to study by yourself, in this case, the material is now far more conceptual, and concepts are much easier to learn with other people discussing them with you and talking to you about them. People who have primarily studied by themselves have sometimes found other resources to help them, even if they didn't get involved in an actual study group or class. So let's talk about groups or classes. When I say study groups, a couple of different models I've seen come to mind. It's a group of people who are all preparing at the same time. In self-driven study groups, what they're doing is they're dividing up the material and say, you come back next week and explain this to us, and you come back the week after, etc., etc. So it's self-driven where they're going through the material. There's also study groups that have facilitators who are there to answer questions and keep the discussion going. So again, you're learning from the discussion of the group as opposed to actually a teaching environment. The other would be a class where you have one or more individuals who are teaching the class. Sometimes they're volunteers in our world, and sometimes they are people who run them through their company. But they are actually teaching a segment or maybe the whole entire class. Things that I found people have had questions and challenges about with these two options. One, look at the schedule. It used to be traditionally these were like 3 hours a week, 15 weeks, or 10 weeks, or even 8 weeks. And what people have found is they have a very hard time making it to all of them because, this child has soccer practice or work sends you off to a meeting in another part of the country or world, and yeah, you can't get involved in class that night. So look at how the scheduling is and figure out what's going to best allow you to get the most, preferably all the material that's being offered to you. Expense is another obvious concern. You will find things that are zero, and you will find things that are hundreds, and probably there are some over $1,000 now. Hard to compare them just on price because they each are offering different things. So that's why it's important to know those things you thought about what are good learning environments for you. How much time do you have with a facilitator or instructor? How many other resources are given to you? How many hours total are involved, etc. Now, of course, you can have online demand classes. You can also have virtual study groups, you can have virtual classes. You also still now can sometimes have an in-person class or study group. So looking at all these things and thinking about you and your personal situation. I would suggest that you talk to the people who are facilitating or teaching or who have designed the on-demand class and find out what they have done to keep the material current. That's really important because I have found over the years that sometimes material gets carried way past its time on the exam. And so it's really important to know that what you're learning is still current for the exam. So I'm really hoping that helps you make the decision that's best for you. And I'm going to wish you all the luck as you go down this road and earn your CMP. And I'd love it if you'd let me know when you pass.